Well, hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today, Jennifer Fonseca, otherwise known as Jen, as I know her. Hello, Jen. Great to have you.
Hey, thanks, Jerry.
Jen is a destiny activator, a career and life coach, a transformational speaker, and she is all about helping you get confident and clear in your calling and career. So there's a lot there, but I want to start with this, Jen.
Yes.
What is a destiny activator? How did you come up with that? I've known this of you for years, going back to the college, but tell us more about that.
Sure. One of the things I find, especially doing like career coaching and life coaching, is that people often kind of get hung up on their job titles, and job titles talk about what we do, but not who we are, right? And oftentimes, job satisfaction really doesn't come from what we do, but it does come from who we get to be when we're doing it. And so when I was kind of thinking through, like, this is my job title, it doesn't say much about me. Who am I? It was kind of a, I would say, like, according to my faith tradition, it's kind of a download from God. And here's this moniker that fits who I am, whether I'm at the grocery store, which is actually where I met my husband, who I've been married to for over 20 years, or whether it's doing coaching with Floyd, coaching, it's as a dream manager, like that's who I am, is activating dreams and destiny.
So, um, well, first of all, I always loved it, because you've always, for as long as I can remember now, gone by this destiny activator title, if you will.
Yes.
And I've always loved that. So when you engage with people and you're coaching them, I mean, what are they curious about that? Like they ask, like, what does that mean to activate my destiny? Like, and what does that even look like?
It does. Well, and here's the thing, like we've gone from like when we're really little, people ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? And
Hmm.
now when we're this high and we're shaking hands, networking, meeting somebody, it's, what's your name and what do you do? But who
Hmm.
I do isn't the totality of who I am. And who I am is always trying to become the best version of myself. And so what I find is when I'm meeting new people, and when they ask the question, like, so what do you do? What do you do for work? I
Hmm.
would rather share with them who I am, right? So who I am is I'm a destiny activator, I'm a dream manager. And then that sparks a conversation.
Hmm.
And one of the fun things that I've been doing too is, when you go on a flight and you've got your seatmates and like there might be some casual conversation. And oftentimes that's the question is, so what do you do?
Yeah.
My response to them is, well, tell me what your dream is, and then I'll tell you what I do.
Really?
Yes. And then instead of it being like a super transactional like experience with somebody,
Yeah.
it becomes more transformational because I'm always aware, like whoever I'm like interacting with, like, Jeremy, are you becoming a better version of yourself or a worse version of yourself when we walk away from a conversation?
Hmm.
And I'm aware of that, even if it's at the grocery store and it's the person checking me out. Like, is the interaction that I'm having with anyone, are they walking away a better version of themselves or not? And if I have influence over what that interaction looks like, then asking somebody like, what are your dreams? Like, what's your destiny? Then it changes the whole nature of the conversation and the interaction.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
What?
you can steal that. Your listeners can
Yeah,
steal
I
that.
might. What kind of reaction do you get then, like using your example, say of the plane, sitting next to someone, and you say that, what happens usually?
I get the head tilt, like people tilt their heads and they kind of like their eyes are like, what does that mean? Tell me more. And that's the part that's so fun is they want to know more of what that means. And then, but it also causes them to go, because I do this also at restaurants. I'll always ask my server, like, what's your dream? And sometimes they know exactly what their dream is. And sometimes they like, oh, I don't know. I don't have a dream. Like everybody's got a dream. Like what's your dream car? What's one habit you'd like to establish? What's a relationship you'd like to improve? Like, so everyone has something. They're just taken aback that somebody's asking them something personal about themselves instead of asking
Yeah.
for something, like trying to get something. Like, yes, I want
Right.
my water and I want to order my dinner. or I want to be left alone in the airplane. But when somebody's like asking you something personal, like,
Yeah.
what's your dream? So I think it's like shock, and then they kind of come back into reality and then engage in an actual conversation.
Yeah. Well, it's so out of the norm. If you think about that normal conversation, like you say, is what do you do?
Yep.
And then it just kind of goes from there. And then we walk away and you know,
Hmm.
that was that. But to ask about dreams, it probably throws people off for sure. It'd probably throw me off. So
Right.
if someone says, and you again using this example,
Sure.
maybe it's the restaurant or you're at the the plane, and they say, "Oh, I don't have any dreams."
I
Do you
do.
go do you press a little bit further like you just
I
did?
do. And I'll ask some of the what I call like a dream starter question. I'll ask like, what's your dream car? What's one thing you'd like to change
Yeah.
in your house? What's one area maybe of your physical health? When you start asking some of
Hmm.
those, and here's how I think of it. It's kind of like before a runner goes running or before someone goes to the gym or when they're at the gym, like before lifting weights, like we're supposed to stretch. So that's kind of what I consider asking some of those
Yeah.
kind of easy questions
Hmm.
is, like those are like stretching your brain to sort of think about before you move the brain muscle of, what really is the dream. Yeah.
I think it's great. I think it's so interesting too, and I'm sure you hear a lot of different responses, or maybe lack thereof. Like you said, maybe I guess,
Well, you
and
know
I
what I hear
actually you
sometimes?
go.
There was one time where I asked the server the dream, and it was like a total verbal vomit. And he had a beautiful dream of like earning enough money to move back up north to be with his kids.
Uh-huh.
And he stopped and he said, I don't even know why I'm telling you all this.
Yes.
But I think like people who have like this natural desire to help other people, like you create like this safe atmosphere, even in the midst of a public area. And when you're asking a question where you're sincere about wanting to know what someone's dream is, then people feel safe to generally share it.
That's what I was going to say is, do you think maybe they've never really had someone interested or who
Sure.
really wanted to listen to that dream?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, and dreams are deeply personal, right? Like
Hmm.
um, through the coaching that I do with the Dream Manager program, so you can
Mm.
see them all.
Yeah, I see it.
One of the things that we find is people start editing their dreams, which means they're limiting their destiny, right?
Mm.
Like because somebody has judged their dream, they don't know how to achieve it. There's fear, there's all kinds of mental mindsets that present blockages. And so, especially even with COVID, people stopped dreaming
Mm.
and because of either being judged or edited or whatever, they've just kind of shelved everything. They've shelved all these dreams, and people are kind of just existing. Like, even if you look up Gallup polls consistently, the number doesn't shift, the percentage doesn't shift very much. Looking at um, quiet quitting or even
Mm.
loud quitting now in jobs, right? So people are relatively disengaged, not just at work, but even in their own lives. So it's kind of, asking someone to begin to dream again can sometimes be a big ask, but it helps them to reawaken to who they are and what they really want to achieve, like in life.
There's a lot there. I want to no, that's you're right on. You just said something um, very profound where people are just existing.
Hmm.
And so let's just talk through that some more. I'm just thinking of so the work you do and the Dream Manager program there with Floyd and some of your own coaching. How do you help with that process of, hey, I've got these blockages, or I have
Sure.
I've had something happen in my life. Maybe I haven't had support. People have killed my dreams. I failed. I don't know. There's a variety of scenarios.
Sure.
To your point of, hey, now I just feel like I'm just kind of existing. Where do you even start to help them get past that?
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, that's one of the reasons I was so drawn to Floyd coaching is Matthew Kelly, who's the author of the Dream Manager book. I'll do a quick shameless little promo, this one right here.
Yes.
He says like the book was so simple, he almost didn't write it. But he
Mm.
said, when people are disengaged in their own lives, what makes you think that they're going to engage with your company's
Hmm.
mission? Like
Yeah.
they're resigned anyways. And so by asking people what their dreams are and giving them permission to have them, like that's what partially starts to
Mm.
awaken. And I'll give a specific example. I was working with a client and she was a young woman, very intentional. And one of her dreams was to have like a personal library. And she listed it as a material dream because it costs money to buy books, right? But she was buying books on all the online like discount places. So she was
Hmm.
buying them for pennies on the dollar. And she had even gone to like pastors and asked them, like, shared this dream. And they were the ones that were like, kind of poo-pooed the dream because, like, why is that important? But in asking her, tell me more about this dream. Tell me what's important about you having this personal library where you picture like just bookshelves full of books? And what she was describing was she was having like the future that she wanted to create with having a family and sitting around telling stories and reading stories and like having this love of language and words and
Mm.
writing and what stories can do in terms of like encourage us and things. And so I said, well, let me just repeat back to you what I heard you say. That you want to have a library because it creates connection with other people. Like you envision yourself being with other people. And you want to have a library because stories can bring encouragement and can help people to like open themselves up to other possibilities and things. And I just kept repeating back the themes that I was hearing her say.
Mm.
And it allowed her to give herself permission to say, then this is a worthwhile dream. Like it's okay to invest money in buying bookshelves and having books because of what it does, not because of what it is.
Mm.
And so some of it
Wow.
just starts with giving people permission and then looking for wherever those small wins are so that they can consistently, because I always say, like, dream big, act small, all the dominoes will fall.
Mm.
So always looking for the one small step where they can get some wins and then that like builds somebody's dream muscle.
Oh man, that's awesome. Say it again.
So dream big,
Dream big.
act small,
Next one.
and all the dominoes will fall.
It's good.
Yeah. And that's the
I
that's
like
the
it.
thing too, is
Mm.
most times in coaching, what I find is well, do you want me to give you the secret sauce of coaching?
Yes, I please give us that
Okay.
and even start with this too. I was
Sure.
thinking of this. If someone has never engaged in a conversation with a coach, and we hear about coaching a lot now, life
Mhm.
coaching, career coaching,
Yep.
executive, there's a coach, all kinds of coaching. Wh- What should someone expect to experience when
Mm,
they meet with you as a coach? Maybe just start there just to kind of, give that high level and then yeah, let's hear the secret sauce.
sure. Well, I would say, especially for like millennials and Gen Zs, they're not looking for managers or supervisors. They want somebody who will coach them,
Mm.
right? And I think a good coach, like with me, you're going to expect that I'm going to listen.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you some thought-provoking questions, and I'm going to give you space to figure it out. Like I'll
Mm.
challenge you. I'm going to do a challenge support, but
Yeah.
most people have the answer already inside of them. They're not looking for advice, right?
Oh, they're not looking for advice.
They may even ask for it, but here's the issue.
Hmm.
And for coaching is one, so if I were to give advice as a coach, then one, I might be addressing the wrong issue.
Mm.
So like an example might be somebody who's really struggling to get sleep at night. If I give advice like, have you tried melatonin? Have you tried lowering the temperature in your house? Have you tried like getting, a eye mask or, blackout blinds? I'm addressing environmental issues, but it may not be the issue. The issue might be my mind is racing at night because I have an issue with a colleague at work or my workload or whatever it is, and my mind is going, and I can't shut my mind down. But I'm giving advice and I'm addressing the wrong issue. So that's
That's good.
one thing. The second part of that is when I give advice, if they try the melatonin and they try the eye mask and the blackout blinds and they lower the temperature and they still can't sleep, then I have lost credibility as a coach
Mm,
because they tried all the things and it wasn't the solution for them.
mm,
So I have to reel
mm,
it back and really try not to give advice, even if I'm asked for it. If I'm asked for it, I might say something like, well, here's one point of view, or here's a few options. Like think about these things. But I really, if I can ask some really good questions first around that, then they'll identify what the real issue is. And then they know, okay, if that's the issue, then what do they need to do to actually address that thing?
mm. So it's asking a lot of good questions and
Yes.
getting to the core, what's really already in there. You're kind of pulling it out.
Yes.
They're articulating it. You're just
Correct.
helping them.
Yeah. And sometimes that's all people need to do is like say it out loud.
Yeah.
Like there have been a number of times where they're like, I've never shared this with anyone. I've never said this, or oh, like they get their aha moment, but it's not because I gave it to them. It's because it
Yeah.
came to mind as they're
Yeah.
processing the question they're being asked.
That's awesome. We'll talk about the secret sauce.
Okay. So the secret sauce really for any kind of coaching is it's establishing like where is somebody at right now? Like what's my current reality?
Mm,
And then helping them to say, okay, what's my vision? What's my vision for mastery in this area? What's my vision for what I want this relationship to look like, my job to look like, my house to look like, and being able to focus not on my current reality as much as this is the vision that I have.
mm,
And then going, okay, I don't need to know the entire pathway to get towards my vision, just the one small step in that direction. And most people don't take a small enough step, but that's really most of the secret sauce is what's my current reality?
mm.
What's the vision for what I'd like it to be? And then what's one thing I can do, one small thing I can do that would help me towards that vision? That's really most of coaching.
I think that is great because it is simple. And sometimes we make things too complicated, right? So the question I have though on that
Sure.
is, let's say someone's current reality
Mhm.
is not great. It's not where they
Okay.
want to be.
Sure.
It's just not a good reality. Does does the vision just feel out of reach? And then like does taking one small step sometimes just feel like, oh, is it going to matter?
Sure.
Just
And
curious.
that can be the case. So I always try and meet people right
Hmm.
where they're at, but with as much clarity as they can give towards whatever that vision is.
Hmm.
And that's also a place where,
Hmm.
like coaching the person and not the problem. If the problem is, I can't visualize this, then it's identifying, well, what's blocking them from being able to visualize this? I would
Hmm.
say most of the time people can visualize, kind of what they want for their future. But
Hmm.
the one small step is what I use with people who have a harder time with that
Hmm.
level of clarity or giving themselves permission to want that dream or
Hmm.
vision. And so it's, but what's what, and the small step might be more uncomfortable than what they're wanting to do, right? Like for the person who wants to work
Hmm.
out or,
Hmm.
wants to run a 5K and they've never run one before and they're
Yeah.
the couch potato,
Yeah.
a small step, you ask them what could be a small step. And even if that small step is when I come home from work and I change, I'll put on my tennis shoes.
Hmm.
I don't have to go out and run. I don't have to like go get on a treadmill. I'm just establishing one tiny little habit that's getting me closer to being able to do the thing that I say I want to do.
Hmm.
And after putting on my tennis shoes a number of times, at some point, that person tends to like take the next step after that, which might be, take a walk to the end of the driveway or around the
Yeah.
neighborhood, but it's
Yeah.
getting closer by taking those small steps and then getting those wins under their belt, which
Hmm.
builds that confidence to be able to go, okay, I
Hmm.
can attain this.
So it's taking a small step and really building on that.
Mm-hmm.
Another little small step, and then
Yep.
just repeating
Sure.
over time,
Yep.
you're going to hopefully start to see some change
Yes.
and moving closer towards
Mm-hmm.
your vision. Um, and then
Yeah.
as far as the vision is concerned, do you recommend uh, I don't know, writing it down, keeping it in front of
Yes.
you, reminding
Yes.
yourself? What kind of cues do you encourage
All of
people to?
those, all of those things,
Yeah.
all of those things. So I would say like, so in the Dream Manager program, it's a turnkey plug and play curriculum that we use. And one of the things that's beautiful about it is for every content session, whatever topic we're talking about, whether it's someone's finances, whether
Mhm.
it's their personality, it's their physical well-being, intellectual well-being, those things, they're going to write out a vision. And by the end of the session, it's what's the one step that you're willing to take in the next 30 days. So we're getting a call to action every time,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And that's really what you want. And I think that's where sometimes people get tripped up in coaching is I call it free range coaching. And that's where it's like you show up and what do you want to talk about as opposed to like a structured kind of curriculum that I use.
Yeah.
And so if you're talking about all these things and you don't land on like you can come up with as many ideas as you want, but even sometimes three ideas of what you can do is too overwhelming for some people or too much.
Hmm.
So like
Just
one thing,
one.
what's the one thing in the next 30 days or even sometimes in the next 7 days you'd be willing and ready to commit to trying?
And then you hold them to that.
Yep.
And what happens if they don't do it? How's that conversation go?
So, there's a number of questions that I might use, and usually I kind of let them talk it out when they report back. The power of the pause. I let them tell me, some things, or I might say, well, what got in the way?
Mhm.
What do you need to say no to in order to say yes to this? What's the real issue? Now, if in the session they're not confident about the one step, maybe I may even ask in that session as a preemptive question, you know, uh, well, Jeremy, what might get in the way between now and the next time we meet from you doing this action? And by saying it, they're acknowledging this kid. Great. So if that's the case, what will you do to overcome it? So even
Mm.
preemptively, you figure that out. But if in the session they don't follow through, it's like, well, what do you think you would have done differently? What do you need to do this next month? What's the real issue?
Yeah,
And you identify that.
that's good. I like the idea of thinking ahead
Yep.
to the preemptive thinking, because now you essentially plan for if this thing gets in the way, this is how I'm going to address it. And you're just being
Right.
proactive and intentional as opposed to just letting it happen and then going, oh, I didn't do that this month. So now I got to come back next month and
Right.
kind of start over and do it again.
Yes.
Where, if you think ahead, you can address those things.
Right. It's like this time of year, especially. So I have clients that are literally all over the world. And, when it comes to like physical things that people want to work on, it's easy during the summer because it's warm outside. They can swim, they can bike, they can
Mhm.
run, they can do all these things, and they forget Game of Thrones, right? Winter is coming. And then there's no plan, but nobody wants to go work out in the snow and the cold or the rain and the gray and but if they can anticipate, wait, winter is coming,
Mm,
then what's the plan? And instead of giving themselves an out, like, oh, it's too cold outside, they've
yep.
already made a decision in their mind
Mm,
of what the plan is going to be. So they can't give themselves an out.
that's good. Decide ahead of time.
Yes.
Plan.
Yes.
This is good. What would you say? And you've touched on this a little bit already, but maybe just to dig a little deeper, I'm thinking, again, dream. I've got a vision, I've got a dream or a big goal. I know my current reality and I know some steps I need to take. Do you see some themes of what does really hold people back when it comes to actually executing? We know a lot of stuff in our head. Like, I really want to do that, right?
Right.
I want to go for that. But I'm just
100%.
curious if there is, I know some of it's anecdotal, but just kind of the themes of what are those things that really hold people back from getting from here to there?
Sure. I would say most of it is their thoughts right up here.
Mm,
And so that's again where coach the person and not the problem
mhm,
comes into play. Because if I'm addressing the problem, I'm probably not addressing the real issue of what's going on with the person, whether it's the fear that's behind something, the sense of overwhelm. It's usually a thought and an emotion that somebody's dealing with. And they're so intricately tied. So here's one
mm.
of the ways that I like to explain it to my clients. I ask them to take the palm of their hand and hold it right up to their nose
Okay.
and tell me what you see. Right? So try it. Just try it, Jeremy. Like if you put the palm of your hand out right up to your nose, what do you see?
Not much.
Can you see me? No.
No.
But now fully extend your hand out, your arm out, and now you've got all this perspective.
Yeah.
And that tends to, so I use that as a visual example with my clients.
Mm,
And most of them I meet with on Zoom just like this. And it helps them to go, oh, I'm looking at whatever the step is or situation, right? I'm in the weeds of things and I
mm,
don't have a
mm,
perspective. But if I can get them to zoom out and go, wait a minute, you know, maybe the thing that I'm struggling with isn't about me.
mm.
Or maybe it's really so like another kind of physical examples are just really kind of easy to
Yeah.
use. Like we all know we should eat better or healthier. We all know we should exercise. So to your point, we know what we need to do. We just don't do it.
Mm,
So, my thought is, okay, then let's look at what's your relationship with food? How are you using food? It's not about how many times you go to the refrigerator. It's why are you going to the refrigerator or the pantry?
mhm,
What is that doing for you? And then I try and get them to zoom out by going, okay, just be aware of your thoughts and your emotions. So when you're reaching for the Cheetos or Doritos or the chocolate ice cream, whatever it is, right? Or you're sitting on the couch thinking about working out and you choose not to, what's that thought that precedes the decision of I'm going to eat this or I'm not going to do this?
mm.
Because that's really what needs to be addressed and to think through like, and if people can put like a little pause in between, or even like somebody who's like a compulsive buyer, before I buy this, I'm going to count to 10, or I'm going to like walk away for a minute and figure out like, am I buying this because I'm trying to self-soothe? Am I buying this because I actually need it? How's this going to impact my budget? Like whatever it is, any decision that we make, like we know exactly to your point, we know what we need to do. We don't do it. So it's figuring out what's actually going on behind the scenes in our minds and in our emotions, because those are the things driving the behavior. And
Mm,
that's why you want to coach the person, not the problem, because coaching the problem is coaching a behavior, which is
mm,
being driven by our thoughts and our emotions.
mm. There's a lot to think about there. I mean,
It
that's
is.
it's
That's
so
why
true
everybody
though.
needs a coach because then you don't
No,
have to think about it. The coach helps you to bring it out.
I agree. I think there's just a lot there uh, that everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people are struggling with,
Sure. Yep.
and I'm just thinking about it as you're saying it because it's so mental, and I can think of
Mhm.
myself if there are times where I am not following through on
Yes.
a goal, on a dream, a vision, whatever, something that I know I need to be doing. Like I know what I need to do. Like
Mhm.
there's rarely a time where I'm sitting there going, I'm just not sure what I need to do.
Mhm.
But there's something that's causing me to not take action.
Right.
It's usually up here. It's
Yes.
just some mental block.
Yes.
lack of motivation, fear,
Right.
apathy. I mean, it's
Yep. And figuring
both.
out what's causing the lack of motivation, because we're all motivated. I just like to think we're selectively motivated. Because I might be more motivated to sit on the couch and do a Netflix binge
Yep.
than I am to work out.
Yeah.
Or I may be more motivated to do something like yard work or laundry or dishes because I'm trying to avoid a conversation that I really need to have with someone important in my life. I don't
Mm,
like doing laundry and yard work and what, but we're more motivated to do that because it's less of a friction point or
mm,
we're afraid to have that hard conversation. And a lot of the times it's because we're in the weeds and we've made up a story about what having that conversation might look like, which half the time it's fictitious. The stories we make up in our brain about why somebody's doing what they're doing or how they're going to react to us, they're fiction.
mm,
Most of the time, they are fiction, and we're fueling a reality that doesn't exist or doesn't have to exist. So I'm
mm,
always challenging people like, is that a fact or is that the story you're telling yourself?
mm.
Because that'll also keep people from, their dreams, their
Yeah.
destiny. Like, I can't. Really? Like, are you capable? Like, is that a fact? Or is that really just the story you're telling yourself?
And so the story then is what we allow to dictate
Yes,
how we do or don't respond or
correct.
do or don't take action.
Correct.
Hmm. This is really, really good. I feel like I'm having a coaching session right now. Thank you for this free coaching session, Jen.
You're welcome. We can coach through
No,
anything.
it is awesome. What do you think about high performers? Like the people that are out there
Mhm.
and they're doing it and they're pursuing it. What separates them? What's the difference?
I think a lot of it really has to do with that mental and emotional
Hmm.
connection.
Hmm.
They choose to tell themselves a story like, I can, I will, it's possible. They create those, opportunities for themselves. And what's interesting is, so I come from the Christian faith tradition. And I feel like it's gotten hijacked by kind of new age a little bit, but there's like this massive movement. You look at the Joe Dispenzas and the Tony Robbins, like they just kind of twist a little bit, but it's like this whole concept that like our energy towards something, our thought life towards something will make it manifest. So we
Mm.
can wreck all kinds of things by telling ourselves a bad narrative,
Hmm.
or we can choose to say, this is my reality. Like this is factual. Like this thing is happening at work. But the story I can tell myself allows me to have greater influence, even over the things I can't control if I choose to. And so I think there's something like out of our faith tradition where take every thought captive. Like
Mm.
there's a reason to do that. There's a reason to not let my mind dictate things because I can tell myself a better story. And if I can choose to tell myself a better story that's more in alignment, with even what God says about me, about my situation, it's a game changer. It's a game
Mm.
changer. But most of us allow our thoughts to think us instead of us thinking our thoughts.
Mm. Say that one again.
Most of us allow our thoughts to think us instead of us thinking our thoughts. So, like, if my
Mm.
neural pathway, because of a lesson I learned when I was a kid, was you're not good enough, I've allowed this lie to tell me a story every time that I'm not going to get that promotion or that I don't deserve to have this kind of car or don't even say this to the boss because it'll be wrong, right? Whatever it is, like this, I'm not good enough is a neural pathway that's really been forged. And until I choose to be comfortable leaning into being uncomfortable and going, wait a minute, no, that's not true. That's the story. I can tell myself a different story.
Mm.
And once I start to tell myself a different story and acknowledge like there's a subconscious thought that's driving this behavior. When I figure out, oh, wait, that thought is what's doing it, I can switch and say, well, this is what I choose to believe instead, because this is really what's true. This is what's true of me. And I've seen it happen 100 million times. I mean, just so many times when somebody chooses to acknowledge, this is a lie, it is not true, it's a story I've been telling myself, I need to choose to believe something different. I'm going to choose to tell myself a different story. It is possible. I can. There's a way to overcome this.
So really what it comes down to is we got to do some deeper
Yes.
work. I
Yes.
say that because, and again, I'm just, this is anecdotal. I'm just thinking like maybe someone comes to a coach and they think, oh, you're just, you're going to help me um, improve this in my life, whether again, is it, maybe it's business, maybe it's career, maybe it's life, and just give me some steps and do
Mm-hmm.
these things. When reality is you really got to dig deep. You got to, you got to dig deep on the thinking, the emotions, and get
Yep.
that right before you can go, here's your 5-step plan, because
Sure.
you're
But
not
here's
going to
the beauty
execute
of
it.
it. The beauty of it is that it's all intertwined. And so whether it's, we're addressing something that's on the personal side,
Mhm.
it addresses things on the professional side. If
Mhm.
we address something on the professional,
Yeah.
because it's a thought pattern, an emotional pattern that we have trained over and over again. And when that can get untrained and something new established, it spills over into all the buckets of our life. It
It's
really,
all
it's,
connected.
mm-hmm.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Well, I wish we had more time. I know we've got a, it's flying by and we're both up against a hard stop here in a minute. But I want to talk about a
Okay.
couple more things real quick.
Sure.
And I know you want to give some resources through Floyd here in just a
Yes.
moment, which is amazing. Maybe just to bring it all to a close, um, what is a step you would suggest to people right now that are thinking, hey, I need to define my current reality and really clarify that vision. But what can I do today to start moving towards that? Like, and
Yeah.
actually make a better, I guess, a better life for myself, better career,
Yeah.
become
So maybe just,
more about the who before do.
yeah, pick one area, pick one dream, pick
Mm,
one thing, not the 10, not the 5, not the
mm,
3. Pick one
mm,
and start, thinking, what's my vision for this one area of my life?
mm,
And write it down. Because here's the thing, even I'll tell you super, super fast. Harvard Business School in 1979 took all of their MBA students and they asked the whole graduating class of Harvard MBA students, how many of
mm.
you have a dream and you have the steps to achieve the dream? So out of all these Harvard students, 13% had a dream. No
Wow,
steps, just a dream.
just a dream.
3% had the dream, the vision, and all the steps. 10 years later, in 1989, they went back, surveyed the class, asked them how much they made. The 13% made twice as much in salary as everyone else, as those who didn't write down any dream or vision. But the 3% made 10 times as much.
Wow.
So just by verbalizing or even writing down what
Mm,
someone's one dream, one vision is,
mm.
they will exponentially be able to achieve it even without thinking about it, just because they've either verbalized it or written it down. I would say write it down. Whatever, pick one area, write down the vision.
Okay, that's the step.
That's the simple step.
Start working on that vision, getting clarity around that one
Yes.
thing,
Yes.
and then call you and have you help them
Yes.
activate their destiny.
Yes.
No, this is really great stuff. I mean, it is so spot on, and it's. I think people are yearning for this, right? There is this desire for more, and to not just exist, to not just go through the motions, but to pursue something bigger. So,
Yeah, we were designed like to accomplish, and it doesn't matter how big or small our area of influence is, like
mhm.
we're all designed with worth and a purpose,
Mm,
all designed to become better versions of ourselves, who we were created to be. But it's
mm,
our responsibility to work towards that.
so true. Tell us about what you have. So at Floyd,
Mhm.
where you are a certified dream manager and you're coaching people every day, you're in the thick of it, but you have some obviously some programs that people can engage with, but you also have some really great free resources.
We do. So there's a QR code that can be linked
Yeah,
in
we'll link to that.
the notes. And so it is the Dream Manager Power Pack. So I think if they just type in, even as a URL,
Yeah.
dreammanagerpowerpack.com,
Okay.
there we have a bunch of different resources. A couple of them are some really inspirational videos to watch. And we've got this great question that they're dream starter questions. So they're questions to help somebody really build that dream muscle. And it's a super fun. I love doing what we call dream storms. But yeah, if they go to dreammanagerpowerpack.com, we've got a set of 5 different awesome resources that they can kind of take a look at to kind of,
That's
get
great.
themselves more engaged in life, personally and professionally.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
And if not, I mean, the Dream Manager book it's written like it's a business parable. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
fiction, but this was the inspiration. I read this years ago, put it on a shelf and thought this would be my dream job. And look, now I'm doing it. So it
No,
can happen.
listen, that is
It can happen.
amazing. I'm so glad you said that because I remember for years, obviously, you were coaching in the career space at
Yep.
the college and doing amazing work there. And then when I saw you had landed where you are
Yes.
now, I was like, that's like the perfect thing for you. I was like, that job was made for you.
Right. And not
Amazing.
everyone's meant to be a coach, but everyone could benefit from coaching because it's that outside perspective that somebody has to just be that sounding board. So,
100%. Just in this time alone, if you've listened to this, you've benefited just hearing the thought process that Jen uses and just the perspective and just again digging deeper beyond what we're seeing on the outside, the symptoms. It's
right.
really what's at the heart of what's going on. And even that evaluation of your actions and like your habits and what are you thinking during that time when you're about to do this or that, really just being self-aware. It's
Yeah.
powerful.
I'll give your listeners like, here's one really quick, easy thing that they can do is
Sure.
they can either set a timer on their phone or like every time you go to the restroom, just do a thought examination. Just go, what am I thinking and feeling right now? Like, what are the thoughts that are floating through? Because that'll tell you the narratives that you keep, because you will start to see themes. So, like, literally, every time I go to the restroom, I'm like, I'm just aware. And that's how I go, are my thoughts thinking me, or am I choosing to harness my thoughts and go, this is what I choose to believe?
Hmm. That's awesome. Thank you
So,
for sharing. Thank you for
absolutely.
investing in us today with these resources and in your expertise. And go connect with Jen on
Yes.
LinkedIn. She's very
Yes.
active there. You can engage with her content and connect to her and Floyd as well
Yes.
and learn what they're doing and how they might be able to help you or your organization as well. So thank you so much,
What
Jen.
an honor, Jeremy.
It's awesome.
What an
Thank you.
honor.
We'll do it again.
I would love that. I would love that. Great questions. You're a great host.
Oh, thank you.